A wealthy heiress lay unconscious for many days. Physicians had surrendered hope. Specialists were summoned from various corners of the globe. Nothing yielded results. Then, a barefoot young boy with dark skin entered the medical facility and uttered 5 words that astonished everyone. "I can wake her up." The millionaire initially scoffed, but what unfolded next altered everything. This is more than just a tale. It's a profound marvel, and you will scarcely believe its conclusion. The timepiece on the pristine white wall blinked 12:32 p.m. The chamber carried the scent of antiseptic and sterile plastic. Machinery hummed softly as monitors flickered, not with urgency, but with a dull, predictable rhythm. The beeping was consistent, terribly consistent. On the hospital bed, 9-year-old Alara Vance rested, a fragile form beneath a soft pink blanket adorned with cartoon stars. Her eyelids were tightly sealed, her face pale, and her dark curls lay disheveled against the pillow. Tubes wound around her like clinging vines, tethering her to life. She had not spoken, moved, or opened her eyes for over 7 days. One moment she was laughing at the breakfast table with her father. The next she collapsed while securing her shoes before school. Doctors termed it an acute cerebral shutdown, a condition so rare that even the most esteemed pediatric neurologists could only offer conjectures. She might awaken, one had ventured. She might not, another added almost immediately. Her father, Arthur Sterling, sat by her side. His large, hardened hands seemed dwarfed as they cradled her small, inert one. A master carpenter by profession, Arthur had constructed grand staircases, lifted massive timber beams with powerful cranes, and poured foundations deep into the earth. But no labor had ever felt heavier than witnessing his little girl fade away. The nurses labeled it devotion, doctors called it desperation, but Arthur did not care. This was his beloved child, and he would not leave her side for anything. Yet time steadily eroded hope. One week in, the doctors began to speak in hushed tones. Hospital regulations, insurance matters, and future procedures entered the conversation. And that is precisely when Mr. Thorne, a billionaire tech magnate, proprietor of numerous medical facilities in the region, and self-proclaimed genius, made his entrance. He was not merely wealthy. He exuded an arrogant smugness about it. A man with excessive funds, countless gadgets, and insufficient compassion. Thorne arrived unannounced that Thursday afternoon, accompanied by his public relations team and 2 private security guards. He had read about Alara in a local periodical while sipping his imported espresso and perceived an advantageous opportunity. He presented Arthur with a comprehensive miracle package: elite international neurologists, AI-powered diagnostic tools, and experimental therapies, all at no personal expense. Arthur, exhausted and frantic, posed only one query. "Will it restore her?" Thorne chuckled, his eyes gleaming beneath his designer eyewear. "Listen, I understand how to restore your daughter's consciousness. Trust me, we will provide her with the most advanced technology money can acquire. We will upgrade her mind like a premium device." His laughter resonated off the walls like a pistol shot. Arthur's face hardened, the muscles in his jaw twitching. He slowly rose, gently placing Alara's hand back on the blanket. "She is not a machine," he stated. "She is a little girl." Thorne waved dismissively. "Emotion weakens you. Science prevails." But Alara did not stir, neither that day nor the next. Thorne introduced sophisticated machinery with flashing indicators, virtual simulations, even a virtual reality headset they carefully positioned over Alara's eyes. Nothing succeeded. She remained silent, motionless. One by one, the specialists quietly, shamefully departed, leaving behind only invoices and silent monitors. By Sunday evening, Thorne ceased visiting altogether. But Arthur remained. He recited her favorite bedtime stories, played her cherished lullabies from his phone, and gently massaged lotion onto her feet. He even described the lunar phases she adored so much, recounting how Venus had shone brightly in the sky the previous night. Then, just past midnight, a nurse gently tapped on the window. "Mr. Sterling," she whispered. "There's a boy here. He says he wants to help. A boy. Arthur stepped out cautiously. What boy? She gestured toward the main reception area. There, seated alone on the cold bench, was a barefoot, dark-skinned child. He could not have been older than 11. He wore an oversized gray hoodie, frayed at the cuffs, his denim trousers were torn, and his face was smudged with dirt. But his eyes, deep, clear, and serene, were what captured Arthur's attention. The boy stood as Arthur approached, nodding respectfully. "Are you Alara's father?" he inquired. "Yes," Arthur responded, hesitating. "Who are you?" The boy did not answer that. Instead, he declared, "I know how to assist her." Arthur blinked. "What did you say?" "I know how to awaken her." The words were not loud, not arrogant, not even particularly hopeful. They were filled with absolute certainty. Arthur, already sleep-deprived and emotionally drained, sighed. "You're just a child, son." The boy nodded, unfazed. But sometimes it takes someone small to remind people of significant truths. "Listen, I appreciate the sentiment, but doctors couldn't help her. A billionaire couldn't help her. I don't believe. She's not lost," the boy stated softly. "She's listening from a distance, but she doesn't know if it's safe to return." Arthur's mouth went dry. The boy stepped forward. "She requires something the hospital cannot provide." "What?" Arthur looked at him directly. "She requires your sorrow, your honesty, the words you've concealed behind your strength." Arthur was dumbfounded. "Who are you?" The boy did not answer. "May I sit with her?" Every fiber of Arthur's being urged him to refuse, but something profound, something ancient and aching within him, consented. "All right," he whispered. The boy entered Alara's room and stood beside her, placing one hand gently on her head. His lips moved silently for a moment. Then he turned to Arthur. "Now she knows you're present, but she needs to understand why you are still here." Arthur gazed at his daughter, his heart clenching. His lips parted, and then it came, the words he hadn't spoken aloud since the day she collapsed. "I wasn't there, my love," he whispered. "I was at work. I missed your breakfast. I missed your smile. I missed your warning signs." His voice broke. "I should have noticed something was wrong. I should have been home earlier. I should have held you longer that morning. I should have told you how immensely proud I was." Tears streamed down his cheeks, falling onto her blanket. He clasped her hand, trembling. "Please return. I will never miss another moment. I promise." Silence. And then, the heart monitor briefly blipped a fraction faster, just once. The nurse gasped. Arthur blinked. "Did you witness that?" "I did," the boy said calmly. "She's listening." Then, just as suddenly, he turned to depart. "Wait," Arthur called. "What is your name?" The boy paused, his hand on the doorframe. "They call me Kale," he said. "I'll be back tomorrow." And he walked into the corridor, barefoot and silent, as if belonging to an entirely different world. Arthur turned back to Alara. Her fingers twitched slightly, and for the first time in a week, the machines pulsed with a different rhythm, not routine, but hope. The sun had barely risen above the horizon, but Arthur had not moved from his daughter's side. His back ached. His eyes were red and dry, but he refused to rest. Because sometime during the long hours of the night, Alara's left index finger had twitched again, this time without a monitor's prompt. It was like a whisper from another realm, faint, fleeting, but undeniably real. No one else had seen it. No one else needed to. He had. As daylight streamed through the hospital blinds, a new nurse on shift rolled her eyes when Arthur spoke of the boy. "No visitor was signed in last night," she stated, tapping her tablet. "And no child appeared on the security footage either. Are you certain you weren't dreaming?" Arthur said nothing, simply gazing at the small pink blanket rising and falling over his daughter's chest, because he knew Kale had been real. The moment that boy touched Alara's head, something shifted in the room, not just physically, but spiritually, as if a window had opened somewhere in the universe. Still, he pondered, where did Kale go? Where did he originate? He had spoken like someone who had known Alara her entire life, like someone who had known him, not the version of himself clad in grease-stained jeans, clinging to hope with raw knuckles, but the man who once believed that love resonated louder than fear. He hadn't been that man in years. He had striven to be a provider, a protector, but he now realized he hadn't truly listened to Alara in a long time. She cherished stories, not flashy cartoons, but ancient myths, the ones he used to recount to her on late Sunday nights when her mother was still alive. She would nestle beside him and ask, "Tell me again about the girl who whispered to the moon." But after the tragedy that claimed his wife, Arthur buried those stories along with his grief. He worked longer hours, ceased singing, stopped dreaming. Alara noticed, but she never complained. She just grew quieter, and now she was silent until Cale arrived. That afternoon, Arthur did something he hadn't done in years. He prayed. Not with eloquent phrases, not with theological complexities, but with raw, broken honesty. God, if you are there, if you are still listening, do not let this be the end. And then, like a breath held in the lungs of the world, the door creaked open again. Arthur turned. Cale stood in the doorway, same frayed hoodie, same bare feet, same calm eyes. "I said I'd return," he stated. Arthur nearly rushed to him. "Where do you go? Who are you?" "I go where I'm needed," the boy answered. "And I'm someone who recalls what others forget." Cale walked to the bed, gently placed a hand on Alara's wrist, and closed his eyes. "She's closer today." Arthur's heart leaped. "Closer? She's been listening," Cale said. "Your voice reached her yesterday, but now she requires something else." "Tell me," Arthur whispered. "She needs the song." Arthur's face twisted in confusion. "Song?" Cale looked up. "The one you used to sing to her before the fire, before the quiet." Arthur stumbled backward as if struck. There was only one song, a lullaby not recorded anywhere, not shared, just his voice in the darkness carrying the melody of a tale from his youth, one his grandmother used to sing when he was afraid. "There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain. Hold on, little dreamer, you'll fly once again." He hadn't sung it since the day they buried his wife. His throat tightened. I can't." "Yes, you can," Cale said softly, "because she still remembers it, and so do you." The hospital room blurred in Arthur's vision, replaced by a tiny living room with soft yellow drapes, a little girl on his lap, her head on his chest, their world warm and whole. He blinked hard, the memory shattering, but his heart remembered. So he sat beside her bed and cleared his throat. It cracked, his voice trembled, but he began. "There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain." He paused, emotion overwhelming him. Cale nodded again, and Arthur did. "Hold on, little dreamer, you'll fly once again." A long, low beep emanated from the monitor. Arthur panicked, but then saw it. Her heart rate was rising, not dangerously, but steadily. Then her fingers twitched once, twice. The nurse on duty gasped. "She's reacting to the music." Cale looked at Arthur. "You gave her something to return to. Now she knows the path." Arthur wiped his eyes. "Why are you assisting us? You don't know us." Cale stepped away from the bed. "You are mistaken. I do know her." Arthur stiffened. Cale took a breath. "Not her designation, but her spirit." He looked around the room. "Because I was a child once who wept in a bed like this, alone, afraid. No one ever came for me. No songs, no hands holding mine. I waited and waited, but no one told me to come home." Silence stifled the air. "I vowed that if I ever had the opportunity to alter that, I would." Arthur fell to his knees beside him. You're like a celestial being." Cale didn't answer. He simply turned to Alara and whispered, "You've been discovered." Then he moved toward the door. Arthur called out, "Will you return tomorrow?" The boy turned slightly. "If she needs me, yes. But I believe your voice is stronger now." "Wait!" Arthur ran to the hallway, but just as before, the boy had vanished. This time, Arthur questioned the receptionist, checked the security cameras, no trace. But none of that mattered, because when he returned to the room, Elara's eyes were fluttering beneath her lids. She wasn't fully awake, but she wasn't gone. And for the first time in a week, Arthur smiled. The ICU floor was unnaturally quiet. Doctors moved like whispers. Machines beeped in a steady rhythm. And in room 317, something sacred lingered in the air. Not the sterile chill of medicine, but something soft, something warm. Arthur had barely blinked since the previous night. His voice was worn to a whisper from singing the same song again and again, not because someone instructed him to, but because he saw how every single note brought his daughter closer. The monitors did not lie. Her brain waves had stabilized. Her heart was strong. And this morning, at precisely 6:02 a.m., Elara's right hand, the one that had been limp for 7 days, reached for his. No one had coached her, no reflex test, no stimulus. She reached. Arthur crumbled, sobbing into her blanket. It was a movement that should have been impossible, a movement that had no scientific explanation, but Arthur no longer cared about science.